I just see shame as this tool that the devil uses to keep you right where you are in terms of who you could possibly be as Brett Ender. And so the way I look at it, and I think it's probably the way to look at change and with the least amount of friction and most amount of upside, is that I'm looking at you as a physical body having a spiritual experience, and there's just parts of your spirit that get buried by emotions. And I think the devil is keenly aware of wanting to keep you holding on to some shame and guilt. And this is not you, this is everyone. And so I'm curious, do you see it that way?
Well, I think the devil like intimately knows what those sins are. And so the longer you just kind of lock those things in a box, they just continue to grow in weight, and you define yourself for these past sins. And, you know, I noticed that there were certain sins post-baptism, but definitely pre-baptism, that I was holding on to. And it's a really stupid construct, because if you believe in Christ, we've all been given this gift that we really don't deserve, and he loves you in spite of those sins. And that's not an excuse to be a not great person, but at the same time, like, we are fundamentally sinners. Like, we're born with original sins. So just continuing to harp on those things that you did in the past, particularly before you found Christ or even after you found Christ, is really stupid, because we're just going to continue to make mistakes. But it's about, can you learn from those mistakes, and can you continue to show up and iterate and become a better version of yourself, right? It's like Paul. It's like the ultimate testament to that. That's why he's so relatable to people. Guy literally was killing Christians, and he wrote 2/3 of the New Testament. Like, if transformation through him is possible, like, it's possible for anyone.
Totally. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head with just, you know, we all have these, we've all fallen short of the glory of God, but the eternal gift of life is God's free gift to us that we have access to legitimately at any moment in time. This is for believers and non-believers, that if you're dealing with any sort of shame, guilt, doubt, anything like that, there's life that can just be given to you just by putting that stuff on the table. And like, I think that's like every person, every denomination can share in that. But I think that looking at it through the Christian lens, which is our belief, is that, you know, you can go much deeper with Christ in that relationship.
Yeah. And I think doing things in your day-to-day life that create and enforce friction will teach you how to run towards friction with some of these fears and these sins, or these things that we don't tell anyone either. Right. It's like, the way that I'm trying to live my life is, if I'm at the gym and I'm like, the last thing I want to do is like 25 pull-ups or something like that, and break it up, I'm going to just go run towards the bar and do 25 pull-ups. If I don't want a cold plunge, I'm going to do that. If I don't want to help you on the investor deck, I'm going to just try to do whatever I can to help you with the investor deck. And I'm not anywhere near perfect at it or even good, but I've just noticed that the more that I've done that, it just kind of causes this amazing chain reaction in these other buckets of your life too. It's all connected.
It's almost like God can hear you screaming for that extra 1% when you do those actions. It's like there's a whole fleet of people cheering you on. Like, yep, like, here he goes. He's going for more.
Yes.
Is there anything that you've learned about being a godly man through Chris?
It's a really good question. I don't know if this is necessarily being a godly man. Maybe it is, but I think just the way that he I'm just amazed at the way that he continually shows up for me. And I feel like the more, like, he wants to make as big of an investment as me as I'm willing to make in myself through the coaching process as well. And I love the fact that there have been multiple sessions where he's just like kicked it off in prayer and just had these like beautiful, heartfelt words of encouragement for me. And it's just like this really awesome, like, olderly brother connection I almost feel to him too. And I just, I don't know, I admire him for being willing to go deep and vulnerable and admit his own flaws. And I just see this like incredible theme of just self-improvement and just wanting to show up to be the best man that he can be for his family, for his athletes. It's definitely admiring for sure.
Do you get the sense that he shows up like that for everyone?
I think that he does, if you're willing to show that level of commitment to yourself. And I think if you don't, I also think he's really good at being honest and accountable with you too. Like a good example of that is every week he makes you do pretty in-depth assignments, and that's really where a lot of the gold is, are these journaling sessions and these reflections that he gives you in the form of prompts. And so he wants those sent to you at least 2 hours in advance. And so I was noticing that the first couple sessions, I was really towing that 2 hour line, but I would tell him that I was going to send it much earlier in advance. And so he wouldn't just let that go. He's like, dude, it's not a big deal either way, but I'm just telling you, your word is saying one thing and then your action is showing me another thing. So like, what's the benefit of you doing this? And if you're doing this to me, how many other people in your life are you doing this to? So there was like some really good, honest reflection of like, your word has a lot more power. Your commitment has a lot more weight than you realize. And so I think just being a really good, honest, and accountable friend is just, you need more of those people in your life.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's something about having someone just speak the truth. We've both been there at moments for each other with that, but it's just when you can speak the God's honest truth into somebody's life and they just hear it the way it's supposed to be heard, it can change someone's entire life.